Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick and today we'll be talking to Chris Macdonald, the club's 159 registrar. This podcast was originally recorded just before the current issue hit your doormats, so when Chris talks about things that are going to be in his next Registro Ricambi column, you already have them. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Guy, thanks very much for this and hi everyone.
Just to start at the beginning, when did you first become interested in Alfa Romeo?
Well, my dad has always kind of worked in dealerships, if you like. And I remember from a very young age, there was a certain salesman who may end up listening to this, which is quite surreal, who had a 916 GTV 3-litre V6 in Sargrassy Green with the tan leather interior. That's how much I can remember the car. And I always remember it. Now, it was just something about it that I liked. I don't know why. It just stuck in my brain. Years and years later, my dad, the branch was a Fiat branch. He got promoted and we ended up him moving to a bigger branch in Edinburgh, which most people, if they are from up this direction, will know the certain branch. And he was put in charge of the service department, Fiat and Alfa Romeo. So I used to go with him every single weekend to his work because one, it's full of cars, and two, it was 5 minutes from my football team. So I basically went there every single weekend and I was there to mid-afternoon. So filled with Fiats, filled with Alfa Romeos, and I think that's just where I got the bug from. And years later, after I was driving, my daughter was born, I needed a bigger car, and my first Alfa out of 7 was a 156, a 1.8 twin spark. And I ended up doing the usual, putting a whale tail on it, respraying the car, which anybody that knows me will know I do it to most cars. But I loved that thing and ended up in the scrapper not long after I got rid of it.
We're going to talk about your current and probably most famous car on social media later on. But between that and the first one, what else did you have?
I have had the 156. I then swapped it to a P-registration 916 GTV, which is the only one of the 3 GTVs that I've had that is actually still going. And it was probably about 7 years ago that I got rid of that. I had a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. Now, more or less, the phase 1 was the only car that was in one piece when they got it. The phase 2, the phase 3, both the bottom ends had gone. I put engines in the 2 of them and more or less fixed them, painted them and used them. I've had a 166, which I had very briefly, and I've had 2 159s.
So that's a bit about your ownership history. When did you get involved with the club and how did that come about?
I've been obviously a member of Alpha Owners clubs such as Alpha Owner, and then leads on to obviously when Facebook kicks in and we all know the Alpha Book story with myself. After that, I got to know Owen and James, a few other of the 159 guys, and at the time, Owen was the actual 159 registrar. So I joined up, and maybe 6 months, 7 months later, Owen decided obviously it was time for him to give it up, and I thought, I'll put in for it, see what happens. And more or less, I've been doing the registrar now for about 2 years. So I've opened my eyes a lot and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So is it a requirement for the 159 registrar to have a resprayed car with a box on the roof?
I think, to be honest, it was Owen that inspired me for the box. I know he used to kind of have it on for shows and then take it off. I don't want to scratch it because the paintwork on it's a fortune. So I just leave it on. Plus it's different, it annoys people like it. So I just leave it on. It's part of the character.
And it's a bit more subtle than his yellow one was anyway.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
We spoke to Carol Corliss in an earlier episode. She looks after the pre-war register where, a lot of the activity is about keeping track of individual cars and establishing their provenance and stuff. And if you then go through to the current models, the Giulia and the Stelvio, the registrar's really focused on building a new community around a new car and reassuring people that the little niggles they're having with their car are the same that everybody else is having. It's not unique to their example. And the 159 registrar, I guess, is somewhere in between those two. So where do you think it is and what do you think your role is?
Well, obviously, being the registrar, I've got the same kind of role as every other one. You stay in touch with all your members. Anyone that's needing help, you want to be the first person there to be able to give them an answer. Whether you can give them the answer or not, at least you've got to know someone that knows the answer or that you can put them on to that may be able to help them. You're there to help people with the type of car. It's exactly what members want. That's what they pay their membership fee for. And I think when we're all younger, if you went onto somewhere and you asked a question, you'd love someone to be able to just give you the answer there and then. So that's what I try to be. Obviously, try to recruit as many new members as possible. With the 159, it's a bit of a strange one at the moment because the cars are getting so cheap and there's a lot of new owners that always wanted an Alpha and they see the 159 and you're getting them now for, I've seen them going for £500, which makes me cringe. But we're getting a lot of new owners. A lot of people joining, wanting to see what's the big thing with Alphas, wanting to get their taste, like Jeremy Clarkson always says. So we've got that. There's the modified scene, which people like myself, they've grew up, they've modified cars, they want to get a normal run-of-the-mill car and don't touch it and end up changing it because it is so changeable. You've got the people that want to do it the way that Alpha should, said that it should leave the factory, never has to change. So we've got a wide variety, young, middle-aged, old, it doesn't matter. There's wide varieties of people in the 15 register. So it's trying to cater to every single one of them. It's trying to build that community, as I've said. I want to be the point of contact for anyone that does have a question, and I get emails in and I love to answer. Obviously, bodywork is a big part of what I do, so I love to get the bodywork questions. I know of one company getting a roof, a front end and a back end, so that's a completely different story. But it's just trying to cater for everyone. That's what I think the register is, keeping track of it, because some of these rare cars, like Nick's car, as you said in one of the previous podcasts, it is a rare car and eventually they're going to start to disappear. We want to know where they are at all times. So that's more or less what I'm trying to do with the register.
We were talking with Ian Chester, the Brera registrar, probably a year ago now, about doing a buyer's guide for the 939 series, the 159, the Brera and the Spider. We were going to look at a lot of the common issues and ones unique to each model. Do you think there's still value in doing that, or with prices as low as £500, do you think the moment's passed?
I think there is. I think it's good to have one because obviously Brera still hold their money to a certain degree. Some of the good 159s, obviously, when people go in, if they want a top of the range spec, they go for the TI, and there is that need to know. Now, if someone goes in and buys a 159, you've got front subframe issues. I've lost track how many times I've written in the magazine about rust. Front subframes, the bodywork is starting to go. Sadly, I think they're going to be on par with the 156s. So it does need kind of fixing now. So I think being able to educate people that way would be a great idea. So I think a buyer's guide for all three would tie in nicely.
And obviously, I mean, I've had two 939 Spiders and a 159 Sport Wagon, so I'm a big fan of the styling as it came from the factory. But as you said, the cars do lend themselves quite well to modifying, don't they?
So with the 159, there is a massive variety of things that can be done. I think it all really started with GA with the halo headlights all those years ago, and that really appealed to me. That was one of the only things I wanted. Now, when I got my first 159, which didn't stay on the road very long, sadly, I'd done the 159 halo headlamps from J. I got them. Now, being the bodywork man, I knew that the Brera bumper fitted, and I got a chance of one, so I took it. So that was all I wanted to do. But there's so much, and I caught the bug. But there's so many different body kits. You've got obviously interior mods. A lot of people are doing the carbon fibre thing in the inside, outsides, other bits and bobs like that. So you've got the new Julia kit from Paris 5 Garage. A lot of people are wanting to go for that, but at £3,500–4,000, I think it's a bit extreme in cost, if I'm honest.
About the cost of 5 159s.
More or less, yeah. There is a lot of tuning capabilities with the 159s as well, and I think that's why they've taken off so much. The 2.4 obviously you've got 200 brake or 210 brake straight out of the packet. So a lot of people are going fantastic. Diesels, as we all know, are very, very tunable. So people are going away and spending big, big money on these things. And they're turning 1.9s, 150 brake. We're pushing 300 brake plus now from them. 2.4s, I dare say, before long, we may see one possibly hitting 400. Don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, yeah, there's a lot of people coming on board with the 159s that are coming on for that reason. And obviously, we try to cater to them as well.
And your own car, the second one, has been on a bit of a journey as well, hasn't it? Tell us what you've done to that one.
Yes, you could say that, yeah. As I said, it was meant to just be buy, don't touch. It's a TI. That'll be fine. So got it, and obviously I fitted my bumper, I fitted my headlights. I was happy. Then I wanted the intercooler. Then I managed to come across a front Leicester spoiler in an auction place. Didn't know what it was worth. I managed to buy two for 20 quid, so that went on. Then, me being me, things kind of went a bit past it. I started with obviously trying to get hold of the roof box. Owns influence there. So there was that. I got wizard tailpipes, changed bits and bobs of the exhaust. I got some airbrush work done under the bonnet, air filters, map sensors, MAF sensors, hybrid turbos, doing all that. Obviously, the power gets a bit much. I had to put the bigger end casing on the gearbox, full race clutch, solid flywheel. I've got a Quaife differential. I've got, the list goes on and on, if I'm honest. I've actually lost count of what's been done to the car. I've got it all written down somewhere, but I done the wise thing and stopped collecting my receipts. it's probably the best thing to say. But yeah, it's my car. That's the way I look at it. And I know some of the things I do to it, people don't like. Some people do. Some people eagerly watch what I'm doing, which I find very, very strange, because to me it's just my car. But people like it, people don't. I'm not really fussed, if I'm honest. Sometimes I think I possibly do it for a reaction, but obviously the respray was probably the biggest part of it. But I got in friends with the owner of Style Italia, who you know yourself, Guy, obviously does great products. I use Autoluso, Alpha Shop, a wide variety of people, if I'm honest. And there's so many people I could thank for helping me with the car, for helping me build the car. It's just got a mind of its own, I'm afraid.
It's 100% original, and by 100%, I mean the fuel gauge is 100% original.
Yes. Well, to be fair, the interior of the car, I like the interior of the car. I've not touched that, bar the stereo. Inside is as Alpha intended.
And is it finished yet, or is that a daft question?
That's probably a daft question. I have managed to get a hold of a very rare Auto Delta Brera front bumper, which you know yourself, there isn't a lot of. I've spent 7 years hunting for one, and more or less I came across a chap who just wanted to more or less swap it. The logistics of it, however, were completely and utterly a nightmare. I'm in central Scotland. He is more or less a very loyal customer of Alpha Shop. So the distance was a nightmare. So I had to get a bumper, get it painted for him, send it down. Alpha Shop kindly kept the new bumper there for me, sent it back up. Project Halo is working on a new set of headlights, possibility of them going in, maybe put some Julia wing vents. I've also got a certain colour in mind, which I don't know if I can bring myself to do, but I'll keep that one under wraps at the moment. But lots of plans, some may come to fruition, some might not.
And when you say keep it under wraps, I assume it will be real paint, not a wrap.
Yes, or me being in the body shop trade, it's definitely going to be paint, yes.
It's been an odd couple of months. What have you been up to with the register during the lockdown?
Well, with the register, it's more, I've just done what I've always done. It's kind of keeping on top of it, seeing any new members coming in, seeing what everyone's doing. Now, as I think most people have, they've been out cleaning the car 5 times a week. And it's great seeing all the pictures of the nice shiny 159s. Keeping in contact with them, a lot of maintenance going on, a lot of people actually coming across the rust issues, which I keep going on about, sorry to keep saying about it. The rear suspension on the cars are starting to go now, and I have some horrific pictures which I will put in the next driver magazine for the 159 column. But it is getting pretty scary. It's almost as bad as the front. So dealing with that. We did have some things obviously planned for the 15th year anniversary of the 939 being released, but with all the shows kind of getting closed, there's nothing we can do there now. We'll just have to wait until kind of everything's back up and running and take it from there, I think.
Well, I think most of the UK cars started arriving next year anyway, 15 years ago. You see what I mean? So it's 15 years since it was launched in Italy, but
it's 15 years since it was launched at Geneva, and then obviously we had to wait on the.
I think it was January or February of the following year when they first started arriving.
Yeah, when they started hitting the UK, yeah. So maybe next year we can have something just as big for them as well, kind of 15, 16-year anniversary, I think.
I know it's difficult because we don't know what will change and when it will change, and it's not even going to be the same all over the country. But do you have any plans for things for the remainder of this year, or do you think most things are going to now just drop into next year?
I think most things are going to drop into next year. I think this year's kind of damage limitations probably the best words to use. Let's kind of see everybody's cars. Let's see what's happening with them. Let's gear up for next year. I think that's probably the best thing to say. Make next year bigger, better, and one that's worth the wait.
And 15th, 16th birthday celebrations aside, any other plans, longer term plans for the register?
Well, I'm waiting on the new online system coming on. I did separate the register a while back, and I want to try and grow it. Historically, it's always been AROC members, and I think to myself, well, there's more than just AROC members that we need to keep track. Obviously, someone that's not part of the Owners Club may have a rare 159 Q4 TI Sport Wagon. It's just one of these ones that we need to pay attention to. So whether they're registered, whether they're not registered, I keep track of them. So I want to continue to do that. I'm going to start growing the kind of website side of it as well. I'm going to backdate any of the magazine articles that we've had, put that on the register to start with, keep the pictures updated. Obviously the Instagram page is on the go, that gets updated quite a lot. The Facebook page is it could be a 24/7 job. So more or less keep that going, and just keep 159 owners happy. As you'll see in the next magazine, which is due to come out, there was one in particular who was ready to scrap the car, and me being persistent and rust and fix this, they're worth on it. They are worth keeping. He took my advice, he spent the money, and he thanked me for it. So if I can save another couple of 159s just by being persistent, then I will.
And I don't know if you've spoken to Steve Ball, who's the 155 registrar. Steve, I think at one point decided that rather than the register being a register of cars in the Owners Club, it would become a register of all the 155s that were left. And I think it's even gone beyond that now, in that I think he has this kind of mission, almost like the pre-war guys, to build a register of every 155 that ever came to the UK. So he knows when they came in and what their ultimate fate was.
How many's left, sort of thing. And it could be certainly something. I think at the moment there is still a lot of 159s in the road. So I think at the moment it's a big ask. I suppose it'd be good to start that now, so that in a couple of years' time it's not so hard. But yeah, it's certainly something that we can look at, and I think put in place eventually. Yeah.
And obviously a big 159 fan, but you've had other Alphas in the past. Any other Alphas you've got your eye on now? Anything you'd like to have?
I've always had the hankering for a V6. I've never obviously had one yet. They've all been 2-litre twin sparks. And I'd love a 916 Spider, or even a 939 Spider. I just think they're fantastic. At the same time, if I was wanting the V6, it would have to be the 916. Potentially look at a Giulietta as a daily car. The 159s now a kind of runabout and a toy for me. So something a bit more kind of along the Alpha lines for on the road, but I'll have to wait and see. But if I was for the ultimate car, it would have to be a GT Junior kind of resto mod, along the lines of the famous GTAMs that we all know and love. I think it'd be a 3.2 V6 one, but I think you'd have to have very, very, very deep pockets.
Yes.
So that's maybe the drawback with that one. And the only thing which I really wish I hadn't listened to David Faithfull's first podcast was the race car. Now, how many 159 race cars? I've been in touch with Paul Plant at Bianco Auto Developments, and he says that there's only one that he knows of. And I'm sitting thinking to myself, a 159 sport wagon on the track. That might be nice.
That would be very cool.
But I'll keep that one. that would be cool. And obviously, I'd maybe have some ideas for livery and stuff like that. But I'll wait and see. I need to finish the one I've got before I start thinking about stuff like that.
I was just thinking. I don't know off the top of my head what the Alpha Championship rules are on 4-wheel drive, but a Q4 sport wagon race car could be quite a thing, couldn't it?
Yes, it would be. Of course, finding one to start with would be good, but that would be fantastic. Obviously, heavy car, you're going to have to kind of compensate somewhere, and the 4-wheel drive would be fantastic around the tracks. I think it would probably scare a few things, but you never know. Possibly one day.
Well, in theory, the weight shouldn't be a problem because in the power trophy, it's power to weight ratio, isn't it? So you can just up the power to compensate for the weight.
Yeah, possibly stick with the diesels then, but
yeah, I do know where there's a 2.4 diesel Q4 sport wagon, but whether the club's finance director would be willing to allow you to turn it into a race car,
don't know. Possibly, we could ask.
Any final thoughts?
No, just obviously to thank everyone at the club for the podcast, for the continuing work. I was always one of these people that when you joined obviously a car community, you wanted to be able to go somewhere and get free information. Then when you see a club and you think, well, I don't want to pay the membership, the best thing I ever did was join AROC. Great people, great magazine. Thanks to yourself also there, Guy.
Thank you.
And just more or less, let's keep the club moving. Let's do what it was intended to. And I think just kind of keep the full Alpha community together. I think that's the most important part of kind of any other jobs at the club. And obviously being owners, it's what everyone wants.
Thanks, Chris. Well, that's it for this episode. In 2 weeks' time, with motorsport finally up and running again, we'll meet Richard Murtha, who's the Lancashire Section Secretary, Alfa Romeo driver contributor, and, of course, the board's motorsport supremo. Episode 11 will be available from 1:30 p.m. on the 2nd of August from Podbean, Podcast Addict, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, the AROC website, and all good podcast providers. Until then, stay safe.